This is episode number 20 of the Homeowner Show. Whether you're DIY or looking to hire, we're here to help you find the best information and options for you and your home. My name is Kevin Hackett, and here with me is Craig Williams.
Hello, and welcome to the Homeowner Show. My name is Craig Williams. We are so glad that you could join us for our 20th episode. Didn't think we'd make it this far, Kev.
I didn't either, honestly.
Well, I didn't think you'd make it this far.
Yeah, I thought we'd already kind of peter out by now.
Or one of us would have stabbed each other with a lead pencil or something.
Yeah, I'm done with this.
But we're still here.
Yeah.
So I think we got a few more in the tank.
We got a lot more in the tank.
Man.
I think we've gotten a little bit better. I hope so.
Well, you've definitely gotten better.
Well, it couldn't get much worse.
Well, man, I'm actually really excited about this show. I mean, usually I'm more excited when we have guests, but
Yeah.
I'm really excited about this one because we're going to be talking about how to decide whether or not to be a DIYer or to go out and get yourself a handy-dandy contractor or a professional and get that project done by somebody else.
Yeah, I agree. When I was kind of preparing for this as well, I found a lot of things that I think are going to be helpful to those that are listening. You know, I think it's important for us to talk about what is the difference. I mean, because somewhere there's got to be like a break-even point where you either go one way or the other. And I think there's some tools out there. I think there's some ways that you can consider what your project is that can help you determine whether or not you should do it yourself or let somebody else do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we move too far down the road, let's go ahead and remind everybody, go ahead and hit the subscription button there for the Homeowner Show, and you can follow us there on iTunes, Stitcher, all kinds of different podcast places. Kevin listens to Underground Podcast 0056. I don't know what it is. But you can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. There's even some funky new weird social media stuff out there I've been playing with. You seen those?
No.
So I think it's like pay to play kind of you have to use social coins. I think they're trying to create their own Bitcoin.
Well, we saw how that did.
I think we're still watching.
Yeah, we're still watching. Also, YouTube.
Yeah.
Go check out YouTube.
The YouTubes on the internet.
Of course, we have to put the disclaimer out there. We ugly.
We ugly, man.
And it is what it is.
But the content is incredible.
Yes, it's way better than regular podcast.
Oh man, I gotta tell you, I'm gonna be filtering out some anger today.
Okay.
Yeah.
What kind of anger?
Some propane anger.
Propane anger.
Yeah, I'm anti Hank Hilling it. I'm propane's the devil.
Well, it can be really helpful.
Yes,
in certain situations
when it works.
Well,
so dude, so once again, my lovely house that is not weird at all.
No.
And I could probably spend 30 minutes talking about this stupid fireplace. So we have two fireplaces in the house.
Okay.
One upstairs, one downstairs.
Okay.
The upstairs one is natural gas. The downstairs one is propane.
Why are they not the same?
That is a great question. They are identical fireplaces. Cosmetically, yeah, they look exactly the same. And if you go outside where the propane fireplace hooks up outside, not 10 feet away, is a natural gas line. So with a shutoff valve where they could have just run it over and hooked it up. But no, they wanted to have a propane one. Anyway, the propane one quit working, and the downstairs gets way colder than the upstairs. And so I've taken this thing apart 3 times, and I've watched 30 YouTube videos on how to repair propane valves and heaters and yeah. And everyone's like, oh, this spider crawled in there and built a web. You just got to dust it out. It'll work fine. I can't get the pilot lit. It's the problem.
Well,
there's no gas flow.
Do you know any spider people that can remove spiders?
Well, yeah, me. And I'm not afraid of spiders. So I literally took every pipe off this thing and cleaned it.
Well, let me ask you this question before you get too far. Is this I need to go do a switch a tank and a little 5-10 gallon tank, or do you have it a big tank that has to get refilled in order for this to run?
No, it's like a little 5-gallon tank.
this is getting worse. Like so literally, if you want to heat your downstairs with something other than your central heating and air,
right,
you have to make sure you have a 5-gallon tank filled.
I mean, I could go buy a 20-gallon. I mean, it's not that
but
big.
Still,
yeah.
This isn't something that you get a service coming out to refill your propane tank.
I don't have to like bring the propane tanks inside. Like the line runs outside.
But still,
but like again, that's the annoying part. It's like the gas line's right there.
This is
right
like
there.
Like you could just take it off your grill, man. This is weird.
No, and like so, like and like I think this is probably why I'm fired up about this show, because I'm at that breaking point right now where like to replace the fireplace, it's like $800. It's a nice fireplace.
$800.
Yes,
for a 5-gallon. Okay, I get where you're going with this, but at some point, I'm just really questioning the person that put this in.
I've questioned him many times. But yeah, so to replace the fireplace, to get one exactly like what I have,
yeah,
it'd be like $800 because it's a nice wooden one with a blower and circulator, and it's nice. And the part that I think, and like again, like I've already replaced several parts that were cheaper because I didn't want to have to replace this one or take it apart to even get to it, but I've done that twice now. This particular part, it's like $160 for a valve.
That's a lot.
Yes. It's the valve control is what it is. The thing that, allows gas to come in, get to the pilot and thermocouple, all that kind of fun stuff. So I've learned many things about propane fireplaces that I never wanted to know.
You said like 6 words that nobody knows just now. And that valve, that's important.
Yes.
Yeah, they know it's important.
And like it's that particular model, and it's the only one that would fit in there.
Okay.
And apparently, this particular one must break all the time because there's freaking hundreds of them on eBay.
And everybody knows
it's $160.
It's going to be $160
or $120 with $40 shipping.
Oh yeah, so that's the same.
So I have names for people like that. So
well, we can't say them here because there's a explicit rating that we're trying not to hit.
That's right. Keep listening, kids.
Yeah.
but yeah, so I'm at that point, and like it's just frustrating.
Yeah. Well, it sounds frustrating to me.
It's actually right outside this door on the workforce.
It's in the shop
in pieces, and I just glare at it as I go by.
I think that's where I would put it too.
So, but I don't want to give it too much power. I don't want to have it, like we're gonna have a good show. Have a good show.
Well, good. Well, I mean, and you really have to get to the point with this project where you have to determine in your mind, am I really trying to put this propane thing back together? Especially whenever there's a gas line right there, natural gas line, that you could go purchase a new fireplace that was natural gas, and then you're in a little bit better place.
So, I mean, I will say, like we're not... I have like a deer camp heater in there right now that's kind of taking the place when it gets, because it is, we've had a couple of nights where it's gotten pretty chilly, and it's nice to have that. So like we're not without heat or anything. But not only that, man, I don't know if you can see if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see the wall behind Kevin, the Homeowners Show Studios, the walls are coming up there. Kevin, give him a nice like Vanna White.
Yes, this is, I don't know which way to look.
But yeah, so the walls are starting to come up. Things are starting to take shape. It's starting to look good around here. And so that's not like the only project I'm trying to work on right now. So that one just kind of popped up on my radar.
Yeah, lots of irons in the fire. And it's always the one that you think is going to be a pretty simple fix.
Right. That
winds up being a lot bigger project than you expected to be.
Yeah. And at this point also, it's like I'm not going to be defeated by a propane fireplace. It's a matter of pride at this point.
Oh man, you know what they say about
so
pride.
That when I have to come back to episode 21 and be like, it won.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to let that happen.
Pride does go with before the fall, they say. If you read the book.
I'm a tall guy. It's going to take me a while to go down.
Oh man, the camera doesn't show everything. Well, that'll be interesting. I'll be interested to see and hear how that goes.
It's going to heat me one way or the other.
Yeah, it's already heated you pretty much. I can tell.
I'm going to get heated up, and if I get heated up enough, it's going to go on the burn pile.
Yeah, exactly.
Either way, I win.
Which kind of leads us into the topic, right? At what point do you choose to do something yourself, or have a professional come in and do it for you.
Yeah, and that's a tough one for me always because I love figuring stuff out.
Yeah.
You know,
and you're capable on some level.
I know the difference between Phillips and flathead.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I just like I like figuring stuff out, and I like learning new things. So it's always intriguing to me when it's a project that I've never done before. I actually like that. Some people hate that, and it drives them bonkers. I kind of get a kick out of it. I really enjoy it. But that's just me. And so like I think you kind of have to filter through your own personality sometimes on the different projects from project to project and go, okay, do I really want to spend my time doing that? Is that something I'm going to enjoy? Is that something that's going to be worthwhile? Am I going to like myself when I'm done with it?
Or other people going to like you when you're done with it?
How many cheap cases of whatever am I going to have to buy these guys to help me with this thing?
Right, exactly.
And that's always it's hard. It really is hard because I a lot of people, whether they admit it or not, are motivated by the bottom line. The bottom line matters to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And when that bottom line, it's tempting when you can go to the Home Depots, Lowe's, McCoy's, Ace Hardwares, and look at the prices and like, well, that's what it costs to buy that? Why am I getting charged $3,000
right.
To do this?
For an $800 fireplace.
Right.
Yeah.
You took me right back to it. I'm steaming.
Oh, man.
It's a good thing it's a little chilly in here.
Yeah, no joke.
So, yeah, man. And what I thought would be kind of fun, because I've sort of created my own personal decision matrix on this kind of thing. And I thought it would be kind of fun for our listeners, for us to go through some numbers on a project you've been thinking about.
Okay.
And see kind of where we end up.
Sure.
Because I think it'll be interesting to people, one, to see, how I arrived at the numbers that I arrived at and why I did it that way. And then really just kind of talk through the different things that probably ought to be going through your mind when you approach these kinds of projects.
Yeah.
So, you game?
I'm game. Let's do it.
Yeah. So let's start with this. We talked earlier. So you have a project you've been thinking about doing in the house for a while.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things is whenever you come into a new home, there's always going to be something that you think, man, I probably wouldn't do it that way, or I would have chosen something different in this area.
Yeah.
But one of the things about our house is just there's different carpets throughout the house. Even across the hall from each other, there's different carpets.
Yeah.
And they're similar color, but the quality is a lot different. The feel's a lot different. Honestly, just the overall look and wear of it is different. And so, I've often thought, once my kids get just a little bit older, I mean, they don't have to get a lot older, just kind of past that stage of I spill everything. And we just got a new puppy. So, if you've ever had a new puppy, you know what I mean. So, once you kind of get
an inside puppy.
Yeah. That does change things. Once you kind of get to the point where accidents aren't happening, right? Whether it's a pet or a child, that's whenever I think, okay, it's time for me to change out these carpets. So that's one thing that I would be interested in knowing the cost differential, and where my break-even point is. Right.
Yeah. So we looked this up and we ran some numbers, and just right off the bat, I mean, we want to give you guys some resources, and we'll put all this stuff in the show notes. A couple of resources I used to get my numbers on this project was remodelingcalculator.org. It's just a free resource on a way to calculate how much it would cost to have a contractor come in and do certain kinds of projects in your home. And you can even do this, use this resource to search regionally. And so it'll give you prices based off where you live in the United States, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Or you can just take the national average and use that.
Okay.
And so then another one that we used, Home Depot actually has a project calculator for specific projects, and theirs is a little bit more comprehensive, and rightly so, because they're trying to sell you lots of stuff.
Sure.
Good for them.
Yeah.
So basically what it is with them is they'll give you, you punch numbers into their calculator, and they'll give you what amount of that product that you need in order to do that project with some wiggle room.
Okay.
And so then you can take that number and then go apply it to that. You can go pick out what you want and then apply that number to that. So like, for instance, like this, we're talking about carpet, and we were talking like 1,000 square feet of carpet.
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah, roughly 1,000 square feet of carpet. So we went in and put Kevin's numbers into the Home Depot project calculator and came up with how many square feet of carpet that we needed. And so we've plugged all these numbers. And so for the first one, we did the remodeling calculator at remodelingcalculator.org. Really, really simple to use. And we came up with $4,700 to do this 1,000 square feet of carpet. And it wasn't like the lowest grade quality carpet. I think it was like $12.15 a square foot.
It was a mid-range.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And so with the labor and the materials and the amount of time that was going to take, so basically it's going to take these guys like a day to come in and knock this project out. So really not much inconvenience to you and your family.
Right.
You probably have some furniture moved, something might get scuffed. A guy might, tip his cigarette butt in your yard or something like that. But you're going to have new carpets in a day, and it's going to cost you $4,700.
Right. Which depending on who you are and what your idea of this project is, some people may listen to that and say, that's not bad at all.
Yeah.
And some people may look at that and go, dude, that's like $5,000.
Yeah.
And that may be more than 10% of what I make in a year, and that's really tough to try to do. So it's the exact reason we're having this conversation.
Yeah, and it's always difficult for the purchaser to kind of rationalize the price and they don't consider all the steps and materials and tools and time and experience that goes in these kinds of things that allows these guys to do these projects quickly.
Sure.
And so anyway, so here's sort of my decision matrix for DIY. So I always, for me personally, I always try and talk to at least 2 people who are doing what it is that I want to do, and get a price from them. In
this case, carpeting, you'd try to talk to 2 carpeting people.
Right.
Okay.
And I again, like, don't do what I do. I'll just tell you the reasons why I do what I do. I always take both prices back to both guys, regardless of whether or not one's high and one's low. And I'll give you an example. Recently, we were quoting out some solar panels for the house. And I gave both these guys the same numbers. And one guy came back, man, it was insane. He was literally 3 times the price of the other guy. And rather than going, this guy's a nut job that's just trying to rip me off, I gave him the opportunity to explain himself, and I called him and I said, look, here's the other company. Here's the numbers that they gave me. And without accusing him, I'm like, I'm really curious as to why your numbers are so much higher.
Sure. And
it wasn't rude. It was literally coming from a place of, I really want to understand, is this other guy just trying to rip me off with cheap parts and pieces?
Right.
Or do you know something that he doesn't know? I mean, what's going on? Or maybe he knows something you don't know.
Right.
Maybe you guys need to talk.
Right.
And so he goes, well, can you send me those? Yeah, I'd be happy to send you those numbers. And he goes, do you have this information and that information? And I gave him every bit of information I had. He goes, let me go have some conversations with some guys. And he called me back within 2 days. He goes, well, here's what I'm seeing. And he explained himself. He didn't change his price.
Yeah.
But he was able to explain to me why he was where he was at, or why he felt where he was at was okay.
Yeah. And so you're able to look at that and weigh, is what he is doing 3 times superior to what the other guy's doing?
Yeah.
And obviously he's able to justify himself and say, I'm 3 times superior than the other guy. And at the same time, you got to figure out which one's more legitimate. Right.
And just one, for instance, on that particular project, he came back and was like, look, my warranty is 2.5 times longer than the other guy. And so you're looking at the difference between 10 years and 25 years.
That's significant.
Yeah. So, I mean, especially when you're talking about, do I want to be in this house for that long?
Right.
My wife's answer is no. It's kind of turned her into an arsonist. But anyway.
I hope legal never gets a hold of this episode.
I'm sure I'll go down in the fire. But anyway, so here's my DIY analysis. Here's how I go through it. I look at a project and I try and estimate how much time that project's going to take me. And Kevin's already given us some numbers here, so he didn't necessarily like game his numbers in order to fix it into my equation here. But anyway, so I calculate the time, and you said how much time?
I guessed for me to do the project,
right?
I guessed it would probably take me a good 3 10-hour days.
Okay.
So I'm thinking 30 hours.
30 hours. So we take that 30 hours and we multiply it by 2. Because I always assume that every project that I take on is going to take me twice as long as I originally thought it was going to take me.
At least.
Yeah, and not because like I'm slow or anything like that, but like stuff happens because like it's in your off time. It's not in your regular work time. And so time gets broken up, and then for me it's like it takes me a while to get all the tools out again, and there's all sorts of things that happen. Anyway, I take however much time it's going to take me, that I think it's going to take me, and then I multiply it by 2. And then I multiply that by my hourly wage. I don't really get paid by the hour, but I can kind of figure out what I get paid by the hour. And so we took this project that Kevin's talking about, and rather than, telling everybody what we make, we just did the national average, which is $27.50.
Right.
Not a lot of people realize that it's that high, but it is.
It is.
And then we take that number, and when we add it to the cost of the materials, what we would look at and go, okay, like, looking at the Home Depot project calculator, what they told us to buy, what we wanted to buy, and then, figuring out what that number is. And then I always take that number and I add an additional 15% onto the cost of that. Just because I've had many projects where I've bought exactly what I needed, and then it was never enough because stuff broke. Right. I made a mistake. Stuff happens, and so I just
or
give
you miscalculated.
Right, and so I give myself 15% of wiggle room on the materials. It also helps account for like gas,
sure,
and time going to the store to buy those things. Even though I think you can like order it online and have it picked up and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, it helps account for some of that nebulous
right
in the project. And so then I have these 2 other questions that I always ask myself is, do I know what I'm doing? Meaning, have I done this project before? Do I have experience? Am I an expert? Do I know what I'm doing? Is this something I can easily accomplish? It's not going to take me any learning time. Do I have a good understanding as to what's going on? And you and I were talking earlier, like both of us, I think, are probably pretty standoffish when it comes to like electrical work.
Yeah.
Probably not like putting an outlet in the wall, but like major electrical work, I'm just not going to mess with it.
Yeah.
It's just not my bailiwick.
Sure. And there's a couple of reasons, and we'll talk about those in a minute.
Sure. So anyway, do I know what I'm doing? If the answer to that question is yes, I always take off 75.
Okay.
And if the answer is no, I always add 150.
Okay.
And so on this one, we asked you, Kevin, do you know what you're doing?
Not on carpet.
Not on carpet. No. So for this project, we added 150. And we should probably go back because, the number that we ended up with for the carpet with your time times 2 hourly wage plus materials plus 15% came out to about $2,400.
Right.
In materials and time.
Yeah.
And so now we've got, time times 2 times hourly wage came out to about $2,000. Materials plus 15% came out to about $2,400.
Right.
So we're already at $4,400 basically.
$4,400, yeah.
And then, do you know what you're doing? You answered no, so that's an extra $150. Do you enjoy doing carpet work?
No.
No. So with that, so if we're at 2,400, 2,400 plus 150 is 2,550.
Right.
Plus 300 is 28. or 48.50.
48.50.
Right, and so you're over what it would cost to have someone come in and do it in a day at that point.
Right.
And so now it's 150 more. So
right.
I mean, I guess if you really, really loved carpet, or maybe the guys that you wanted to use, they couldn't get the carpet. I don't know. But anyway, for me, I'm looking at that going, okay, it's $4,700. I get to keep potentially 30 hours of my time, maybe even 60 hours of my time. And, plus frustration and tools that I may never use again.
Right.
And who knows? I mean, I don't know. But it's just a good way to go through in my mind, it's a good way to go through a project and evaluate it and go, do I really need to be doing this?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, is this going to be the project for me?
Yeah, and I think, it's easy for someone to listen to this and say, well, I mean, seriously, Craig, I mean, you're just coming up with numbers, but the reality of it is, these are all things you have to think about. You have to think about the overages that you don't account for.
Right.
And you have to think about the fact that when you are doing this project, you're not doing something else. And, there's a lot of people in the world that work hourly. And if that's the thing, you're not at your job for 3 days. And that's 10-hour work days.
Yeah. Where you're not earning money.
Exactly. and even if this is, off time, where you're not working and maybe you're a salaried position or whatever, most of us have other things that we enjoy doing, whether it's hanging out with our family or playing around a golf or going, running or whatever it is. We're not able to do something else. And so there's a lot of these calculations that I think are helpful for me, because it allows me to put some real numbers to, is this actually worth it? And what's real interesting is it allows for those things that I do enjoy doing, for that number to actually be lower. For example, you put in there, if I know what I'm doing,
mm-hmm.
take off $75 off that, because I'm not spending any time trying to figure this out.
Right.
But if I don't know what I'm doing, then I'm either reading a book, I'm talking to a professional somewhere, wherever I can find one. I'm on YouTube. Probably most people go directly to YouTube, and I'm spending more time on this project. And so I think that it's easy to say, well, I could save half of that if I just do it myself. And that may be true,
mm-hmm.
but there's a whole lot of things that you have to calculate for that may make that extra, half, that extra 50% not worth your time or your effort.
Yeah. One of the things that it brought up a fun memory for me, especially considering last episode we were talking to Justin.
Yeah, the roofer.
about roofing.
Yeah.
Because I had a buddy in high school that lived in my neighborhood, and his dad decided one summer that they were going to re-roof their house. And to me, that's one of those projects that I look at and I was like, no, not
doing that.
Not going to do that. And he just jumped in with both feet. And so I think this was like into middle school, beginning of high school kind of stuff. But that's like hang and chill time for like we go play basketball, we go ride 4-wheelers, whatever's going on in the neighborhood. But like most of the time he was at home scraping the roof or putting shingles on the roof, and like in the middle of the summer. And so and if you've ever had your house re-roofed, I mean, like those guys can knock it out in 3 or 4 days.
You said guys.
Yeah.
Multiple
guys. There's a crew. I mean, like these guys bring in massive crews, and they knock it out really, really quick. And they do it that way because they don't want to have an exposed roof to rain and any other elements. But man, it took them like 3.5 months.
Oh my goodness.
To knock that thing, because he was, the guy worked. He was, he had a regular job, and so he'd come home after 5 and they'd get to work on the roof and they'd spend all weekend on it. And, it was the summertime, and so he was out of school. So his dad's expectations were for him to be working on the roof.
Oh my goodness.
So it was just a nightmare.
That sounds awful.
But I'm sure they ran the numbers and was like, well, this roof's going to cost us, $8,000 to $10,000 to have somebody else come in and do it, but I can go buy the materials for $2,000.
Right.
But like $2,000 plus 3 months does not make a good equation.
No, not in any way. And you know, you brought up a really good point. I think it helps lead us into this next part of our conversation here is what are the things that you need to consider whenever you're trying to determine, do I do this myself or do I hire a professional, beyond how much is this going to cost? I mean, cost is definitely going to be one of the number one motivating factors
for everybody.
I don't care if you're a millionaire or if you're, you know, working a job that you're just hoping to make ends meet. It doesn't matter. You're still going to look at that and go, I don't think I want to pay that much, or that's not bad at all. So once you kind of move past the cost element, there's other things that you really are going to have to consider. And you brought up a really important one, which is, what am I exposing myself to here from a liability standpoint? Mm-hmm. So specifically for this roof, 3.5 months in the summer, like here we live in Houston, and the first part of the summer, June, you're probably good. You get to July, the second half of July, and dude, it starts raining.
You cook your breakfast up there, man.
And it's just like, at what point are you setting yourself up for a massive failure? And so you have to calculate, is this project something that if it fails, it is going to cost me way more? Because now I'm not just replacing the decking and the shingles of my roof. I'm replacing maybe the insulation underneath it, maybe the ceiling where water's gotten in, and this could be a much bigger project than I ever expected it to be.
Oh yeah, man, and like when it's not installed properly, I mean, does your insurance cover that?
I doubt it.
We probably need to get an insurance guy in here and talk about that. I mean, like that's a good one right there. But I'm with you. I don't think they will. I don't think they would, and I don't think they should.
No, I agree with you.
You know, if I installed it, I wouldn't cover it.
Right. That's right. And so, you know, there's something to consider there as well. So when you are looking to sell a home, an inspector is going to come and look at your house.
Right.
And if he looks at something and says that's not up to code, they're going to make you redo it before you're able to sell that house. Unless the buyer is dumb enough to say, I don't really care. And I'll do it myself. Or
they can play on your patience and be like, well, I'll just go ahead and knock 10 grand off the price and I'll take care of it myself.
Absolutely. So it really does come down to is it worth it for me to get into a project? And, you know, one of the things you said as we were preparing for this episode is good enough for you?
Yeah. I think when it comes to people's homes, people tend to have really high expectations for the end product. And so, you know, and let's just be honest, we're not all master craftsmen.
No.
And we're not going to have that magazine look in our house, particularly if we do the project ourselves.
Right.
Most of the time. One, because most of us can't afford the tools that it takes to do those kinds of projects. And two, even if you have the tools, it still requires a level of skill and experience and probably 50 to 60 mistakes with that tool in order to get it right.
Yeah.
Or to get it perfect.
Sure.
And then there's just things that come up in regards to just things that were done poorly before you. If it's not square, if it's not flush, if it's, you know, because most people go into situations like the room that we're sitting in, that it's like my expectation was like, hey, it's going to be square and level. And neither one of those things were true.
Yeah. And you know, you have different levels of what you think is acceptable.
Right.
So, you know, I'm working on a project right now, haven't been able to work on it actually the last couple of weeks, but just making a bench that's going to go in our entryway. I enjoy woodworking. It's something that I find a lot of pleasure in. I love the outcome with it. My mother-in-law also loves to tinker around with things. And as I was preparing some of this wood, I was I was getting the joints perfect. I was planing it down. I was making sure all the boards were exactly the same size. And I remember she said to me, yeah, you're just a lot more particular than I am.
Mm-hmm.
And she wasn't saying that in a derogatory way. And I don't look at, I mean, she's made some beautiful things that I don't think is derogatory toward her to say, yeah, you just don't pay attention to detail like I do.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a derogatory thing. The thing that is different is we have a different eye for what we think looks good.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to do something in your home, the question I think you have to ask yourself is someone going to come into this house and look at this, whatever it is, whether it's a plumbing job or a built-in,
Sure.
a set of cabinets or something that you decide to build, and look at it and go, man, that looks really good.
Yeah. Yeah, or just like, I can't really find a flaw in that.
Right.
I
would have done this differently, or if I would have hired someone, it would have looked differently than this.
Yeah. And I'm the first one to admit I don't have a high level of attention to detail for things like that.
Sure.
For like precision cuts and different things like it's never bothered me that things can. I mean, I like things to be straight and I like things to be neat and all those kinds of things. But when it comes to me doing it, I'd rather somebody else do it because I know that they just have the patience for it and they have the skill for it, and I really don't feel like developing those things.
Yeah, but the opposite is also true, right? Is like I do have the ability to do that.
Right.
I do have the skill to do it. I have the tools to do it. And I did build a built-in a little mudroom area in our home before we moved down here, and it was a selling point of our home because it was done really well. But it takes time to do that.
Yeah.
It takes patience to do that. It takes tools to do that. It takes a lot of time to develop the skills to do those things. And so I think that, yes, paying attention to the details is something that am I going to do that? Well, I think it kind of depends on whether or not you really enjoy doing it. It goes back to that equation.
Yeah, and I think that's a big part of it is like regardless of, what kind of personality you have when it comes to the work, are you going to enjoy doing it?
Yeah.
Is it going to be fun for you to do this project, or is it just going to be a big old pain in the katukish?
Yeah, and even little disgusting jobs, like I've mentioned on this podcast before, a project I had where my disposal was backing up into my dishwasher, which was an awful thing, and
right.
It took getting down into the plumbing, disconnecting things, and cleaning things out, and it was disgusting. But I remember when it was all done, we buttoned everything back up, and I was like, "Hey, babe, it works again," and like feeling that sense of pride, of like, I did this, and it didn't cost us an arm and a leg to get a plumber out here to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If you guys are hearing the dogs barking in the background, those are my guard dogs back over there. I'm sure they're corralling a cat or a possum or something.
Hopefully a cat. Sorry, cat people.
Yeah. They'll get over it.
Yeah.
No.
So what other things do you think are important to consider?
Well, man, one of the big ones for me is, and you and I were talking about this before, is one is permits. I mean, is it the kind of job that's going to require a permit to be pulled? And then sometimes you live in a neighborhood like mine where permits aren't enough. We actually have, like, for my neighborhood, anything that we do to the house is technically supposed to go before the HOA board, and they have a separate remodeling committee, and you have to bring them the plans, and you have to show them that if the plans require a permit, that your contractor has pulled that permit and that you have the right license to do the job. It's pretty intricate to do things around here.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
Considering the house you live in.
Like, where were you guys 10 years ago?
The committee formed late.
That's right. Or they were drunk.
Or both.
Oh, man. And I've been to some of their houses, and Yeah. Anyway, all that to say, it's not difficult to get things approved.
Right.
But it is nice to know that there is that sort of stopgap there that kind of goes like, look, you got to put a plan together. You can't just like start knocking walls down and putting additions on and pouring foundations and all this kind of stuff. You got to do your due diligence on this thing.
Yeah, and so I think that's one of the things you named it, that if you have to start pulling permits, I think that's the type of job that you need to start considering. If I have to have a permit for this, can I do the work? Mm-hmm. Even if I feel competent that YouTube's going to tell me how to do it,
right?
and I could read a book or whatever it is, I could do the work myself. If I have to start pulling permits, I think that is an indicator of this is a professional level job.
Yeah.
I don't have to pull a permit to change an outlet in my house. But I probably do have to pull a permit if I'm going to run new lighting for outdoor spaces.
Sure.
You know? And so those are the types of things that you have to start calculating in your mind. Can I do this? And I think that's a real good stopgap, like you said, that word that says this is the place where I have to stop and consider, can I get through this gap?
Yeah, man, and I don't want us to kind of go down the path that's making it sound like we feel like you just need to hire people to do everything,
right?
Because that's definitely not the case, and that's not the point of the show either. But it is good to be aware of your limitations,
sure,
like what you can do and what you cannot do, and to be honest, and that's really why for me, like I created that matrix of like decision making, like and really trying to be as honest as I can with that project, and using my time to create real numbers, and honestly, I've done it a few times where the numbers have not come out in my favor, but I really want to do it.
Yeah, and I think you have to calculate that in your own, matrix as well. Is, do I want to do this? Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, if I want to install my own carpet, and it doesn't really matter how much it's going to cost, at the end of the day, if I want to do it, it's worth doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you'll figure it out.
Yeah. And especially if it's something like, you know what, I'm going to be doing this a few more times before, I hang up my whatever it is you use to put in carpet.
I wouldn't know.
I don't know what that is either. we need to have a flooring guy in here.
I guess so.
Make a note, Kevin. Okay. Ask the guy what the tool is to put the carpet in.
I will.
It's got to have a good name, right?
Yeah, like carpet knife. One of those.
It should be something fun, like Schnoozenbauser.
Yeah, it probably is.
That's what it is.
Yeah, it's probably what it is.
Schnoozenbauser.
I think you have it right there.
So I wouldn't buy an expensive Schnoozenbauser.
No.
Mid-range.
Yeah, mid-range. About like the carpet.
That's right.
The carpet grade.
If I'm going to have mid-range carpet, I'm going to mid-range Schnoozenbauser.
Yeah. I'm impressed that you remembered that name for like 7 times you've said it.
I'm going to bring it up like in at least the next 5 episodes.
All right.
That and the finger wagging Ursula.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So
you brought that up in about 6 episodes, I think.
It's going to happen.
So another thing that I think is important is to ask yourself, am I the type of person that can put a plan together and finish it?
Sure.
I can't tell you how many people I've talked to who have said, yeah, I started that 6 years ago, and I'm gonna get to around to finish it someday. And you kind of live in this state of construction around your house. So in order to do these projects, you really do need to be able to be a person who can develop a plan, stick to it, and finish the project. And also, along with that, I think you have to start evaluating the level of safety risk that you're under. There are certain projects let's take electrical, for example. There's a significant safety risk whenever you start dealing with those sorts of things.
Death.
Well, that specifically is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Death. That's not good. Whenever
I'm anti-death.
Eventually we're all gonna die. However, I don't want it to be from an electrical shock. And so my brother-in-law is an electrician. So he's very, very good at it. And I remember we were changing outlets out at my previous home. There were 2-prong outlets everywhere. And we're just like, we got to change these out to something that is going to accept current plugs, right? And so
got to stop cutting off the ground.
Exactly. And so we're doing all kinds of stuff, and I'm like, all right, well, my brother-in-law is going to have to cut off the electricity to do this room. And I remember him saying, no, just leave it on. I was like, okay. You don't want to turn it off to change that outlet? He's like, no, I don't need to do that. And he didn't. He knew what he was doing, and he was smart enough not to kill himself. But
man, I don't care if you do know what you're doing.
It was what he wanted to do. He's a professional. He can deal with it if he wants to. But do you know where your outlet, your circuit breaker box is? Do you even know where that is?
Yeah.
And if you don't know where your circuit breaker box is, you probably don't need to be working with electrical.
I'll second that.
Yeah. So, safety has to be a priority here. And so maybe that's something you want to work on. Do it. Absolutely. Get your feet all the way into the water. Get your hands as dirty as you can get them. Do the job.
Wash up afterwards, but
yeah,
get them dirty.
But get them dirty. And get into it, man, and enjoy it while you're there. But know what your limitations are. And I think that's really one of the things that I want our listeners to hear today is know your limitations, but be willing to take some sort of calculated risk. And, the bottom line is that this stuff is going to cost you money. Mm-hmm. Whatever project it is, it's going to cost you money, and you will save dollars in your bank account if you do it yourself. It may take you a lot of time.
Yeah.
And maybe at the end of the day, your time is more valuable than the dollars in your bank account. But, you're going to have to make some of those decisions somewhere along the line.
Yeah, and even if like your time maybe right now is not as valuable as that project. I mean, this is a conversation my wife and I have been having a lot recently. Is like you can always spend that money, right? I mean, like you can always do that. You can't get the time back.
No.
You can always get the money back.
Right.
I mean, there's plenty of it out there. You can go find it. It's there for the taking. But like the time, it's just gone.
Right.
It's always it's a non-returning asset.
Right.
And so, but again, like if you just enjoy doing it, do it.
Yeah, and I would encourage people also to look at a project not as maybe as the whole, but look at it in parts.
Sure.
So, for example, let's say that you are deciding you're going to open up a room in your home by removing a wall.
Right.
Okay. Maybe you don't feel comfortable taking down the studs, and maybe you don't feel comfortable with, doing the extra brace work, whatever you have to do here or there, but maybe you could demo the sheetrock that's already there.
Yeah.
That is going to save you dollars, because someone's going to charge you to come in and rip the wall down.
Right.
And so look at it not necessarily as a whole project, but more like the sum of its parts, and figure out, is there a little part that I can do? And maybe that's going to wind up saving you money. And maybe it's just something that you can, at the end of the day, go, I had a little bit of buy-in to that project,
Yeah. No, that's the part I did right there. That was my little, that thing right there.
Yeah.
So yeah, and this room is probably a good example of that. I mean, and how budgets can change throughout. Because this one actually became significantly cheaper once we decided not to put the bathroom on. And really, the deciding factor for that was this was basically going to be somebody's like studio apartment,
right,
that needed a place to live, and like, we had the space. We were going to put the bathroom in just so they had that space.
Yeah.
They ended up not needing it, and so it was like, now it's mine. So I'm already started.
Right.
So at one point we probably need to have our buddy Jared in here to kind of talk about the initial startings of this project.
Yeah.
Once we get it finished, I think that'd be fun to bring Jared in and talk about how this one got started, because
Sure.
It was a frickin' nightmare.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. So kind of going back to our numbers. So we've got our numbers on your carpet now.
Yeah.
So based off what we saw, are you gonna hire this thing out? Or are you gonna do it yourself?
There is no chance I do this myself. There's no chance.
Yeah.
I mean, there are certain things that I think I can get in there and do that.
Yeah.
But when it comes to carpet, this is one of those things that, I mean, my feet touch this a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna roll around the floor with my kids playing. I don't want to consider that I did it wrong. There's no chance I do that. Honestly, here's how much I don't want to put in carpet. If you came to me and told me you could save 40% going through the matrix, this calculator that you've created, save 40% doing it yourself, I would still have someone else come do it. Just because I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
But there's other projects, Craig, that I think you can tell me it's going to cost you more to do it yourself, and I'm still going to do it because I want to.
Yeah. And you kind of have your ideas to how it's supposed to look, and you can make it look that way.
Yeah, and I am particular. I know I'm that about myself. I have a particular idea, and if someone comes in and does it differently than what I want them to do it or how I want them to do it, and I may have problems with that, and it may be smarter for me just to do it myself.
Yeah.
So.
Well, there. I hope that was helpful to everybody today. Kev, you got anything else for us today, man?
No, I will tell you that we're gonna do our best to get this little calculator that you've created, this matrix, available. Try to put it up on our website. We probably got a little bit of figuring out how to get that up there, so it may take us a couple of weeks. But we want to provide you with that tool.
If it's a helpful tool, we want to get it to people. I use it a lot.
Sure.
So
yeah, and maybe if you don't ultimately use it, it might be just another resource to give you some ideas. And feel free to contact us if you've got a project that you think I'm looking into doing this, and I need someone's perspective on whether or not I should tackle this or whether or not I should hire someone out. Send us an email at info@homeownershow.com. We'll respond to you quickly and give you our opinion. I wouldn't tell you to always go with our opinion, but we'll see what it looks like, and if it's something that we feel like we would tackle or if we would hire it out, we'd love to give you that feedback.
Absolutely. Yeah, we need to give the shout out to Brandy for responding to our little video there. She said she wanted to get her ceilings redone.
Yeah.
We put the post up. I think we put up on Facebook and Instagram. What projects are you looking to get redone? And Brandy threw up, I want to get my ceilings redone.
Yeah, still.
So hope you get your ceilings done, Brandy.
Yeah, me too. You too.
So, man, anything else?
I think that's it. We're glad that you're tuning in, and if you've got an idea of a show you want done, let us know. Give us some feedback, and remember, we're here every Tuesday morning. So hit that subscribe button, and until then, we'll see you next time.
See you.